At 37 Disney Street, which isn't far from you, 3 Disney fans have watched a film which they will now review.
Hello there friends and welcome to 37 Disney Street. This week we're going to be taking a look at Return to Oz. Isn't that a chicken in there with you? I'm Chris Fletcher.
I have always valued my lifelessness. Hi, I'm Hugh Rain.
We're a long way from Kansas, Dorothy. I'm Lucinda Rain.
Hi guys.
Hello.
We have very few people in the chat today, and that's because somebody forgot to post a link. And then on top of forgetting to post a link, I also accidentally, rather stupidly, forgot to set everything up as well, so we weren't quite ready to go. But we're here now. All is good. And we're going to talk about Return to Oz.
Yes. Now, those quotes at the start, we normally get quotes together. I got 3, but just in case. But the guys didn't deliver them in the way God intended. Which
Go on,
is,
you do it.
The first one was, isn't that a chicken in there with you?
Oh, yeah.
And Lucy should have been like, we're a long way from Kansas, Dorothy.
I didn't know we were meant to do impressions. I thought they were just quotes.
Okay, yeah, sometimes it is. I have always valued my lifelessness. That's TikTok.
And the other one I wrote down was, because I found it quite sinister, was you may have a nap if you wish. Which is what she says to Dorothy when she leaves in her room. You go in here and you have to stay here. You may have a nap if you wish. I quite like that. Voiceover guy in the chat says, "Oh, it's live." It is. Yes. So we do this live now. I have just realised that I've put it through public, which means everybody's watching this. So apologies to those of you who have Patreon pals who normally have this entirely to themselves, unless I switch it off and start again, which I'm not. I don't want to do.
I think it'd be mostly...
Basically, I've technically messed up. I apologise to everybody. But also, anybody who's joining us now who isn't a Patreon pal, this is what we'd normally do on a Patreon show. But hopefully a little bit more organised than this.
It's a taster.
I'm absolutely honest. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Return to Oz. Very, very much like our other classic shows. We did one last month on Tron, didn't we?
Yes.
But we tried to keep these to half an hour now, so we're trying to be a little bit better with our timekeeping, move through the same stuff as we always used to do, but a lick of a pace.
With fewer arguments.
Yeah, essentially. Well, so far.
Yeah,
so far. So we're going to talk about the story, then we're going to talk about the visual effects, I've decided to call it now, because it used to be animation, but now we're not talking about animated films all the time, so visual effects, and then we're going to talk about the music, which is... Yes, songs if there's songs, but also soundtrack. And,
sound production.
And yeah, all that sort of soundy type stuff.
Yep.
So, should we jump straight in?
Yes.
Right.
Lucy was looking at the lights then to try and get a sneeze going. I can see her.
There's a really nice light flare above you there if you want to have a go at that.
I can see my nose getting pinker as well with all the wiping. Oh, dear.
All the more reason to get on. Oh, before I press the story button, though.
Yes.
We do want our Patreon pals to chuck in their 3-word reviews later on. So if you've got 3-word review for Return to Oz, let us have it later. And also, if you have a score out of 10, in the past we've used the kids for the last 10 points for our scoring. What we're doing now is using our audience. So if you have a score out of 10, you can let us know what it is. I've already had some through on Twitter as well, so we'll keep tabs on that. And then we'll pass those scores into one score to rule them all, and that score is the score that will be used for the mark out of 10 that gives us the round number out of 100. On to the story.
So it's time to discuss how the story goes. I know it can't be worse than Oliver and Coke.
How do you want to start?
Story. Well, have we got any sort of expectations going in?
I mean, I love this film. So my expectations going in were that I was going to absolutely love this film.
Yes.
It's filled with... I grew up watching this and Watership Down, which is, when you think about it, quite a dark childhood.
Yeah.
Me too, actually. Well, I say that. I think I only saw this once as a kid, and I worked out I must have been 4 because I saw it at the cinema.
Oh, did you?
4.
We weren't allowed to go see it at the cinema.
Bonnie was freaked out watching it today, and she's 8.5. So to watch it at 4... 2 things. I remember 2 things from it. I remember the Wheelers, which I thought were called the Wheelies until I probably watched it again as a teenager. And the only other thing I remember is the woman in the nurse in the cage at the end.
Oh yeah, when she's being.
That's all I remember. I don't remember anything else from the first time I saw it. But I've watched it a couple of times since, and I love it.
Yeah.
This is one of those films that I have seen bits of on the TV when it's been on, and you know when you've turned a film on a third of the way through and then you watch half an hour and then you have to go out and then you don't watch it. I must have done that half a dozen times because I think I've seen most of this film but never in sequence, and this is the first time I've watched it end to end, bookmark to bookmark. Thing is, this isn't my kind of kids film. I totally see that it is Hugh's type of kids film, knowing the other films that he's into, things like Dark Crystal,
Time Bandits.
things like Time Bandits, yeah.
Baron Munchausen.
That little bit weird, freaky, sinister,
Classic adventure story.
yeah. It's just not my kind of kids film, but I have an appreciation for it.
Yeah. And interesting to note, this is the first film, this is my favourite fact, I've said it before, to feature the Walt Disney Pictures ident with the castle with the stripes through it on the blue background.
Ooh.
Albeit without any sound.
Yes.
First time outing for this. When was it? 1985.
There you are.
There it is.
I like how. So sorry, I'm jumping in now.
Do it.
I like how it's structurally it's very similar to The Wizard of Oz. You have this bit beforehand, then she goes into a world, then you come back out and it's all resolved. But it literally jumps straight on from the previous outing to Oz. I think one of the difficulties of this film is you automatically see it as a sequel to the MGM film, the musical, and so I think going in, having not seen it before, you have an expectation for it to be full of light and beautifulness and colour and songs that you can get into and all that sort of stuff. And it isn't that at all. It's it's grittier, isn't it?
It's an interesting concept that we rejoin Dorothy and she's talking about Oz, but everyone thinks she's delusional.
Yeah.
And it's really sad. And you know, you've got to admit it's a pretty dour first 20 minutes.
Well, she's basically they've had a hurricane that has destroyed their house, which is being rebuilt in the background. In Wiltshire, Kansas, and we'll talk about that when we get to visual effects. and they're basically she's gone through this harrowing experience, and let's say that Oz isn't real. Just to start off, let's say that Oz isn't real. She's gone through this harrowing experience, and her Auntie M thinks that the solution for the fact that she's been having strange dreams after going through a traumatic experience is to take her to a doctor's where they're going to do basically electroshock treatment on her.
Yeah,
I'm surprised at Auntie M here.
It's weird, isn't it?
Thing is, to me, that seems quite in line with the times, to be honest, because mental illness was not understood to be mental illness. You know, it's not understood the way it was now. It was an actual illness, as it were. So yeah, I believe that. Thing is, my reading of I've never read the books. Have you ever read the books?
No.
I think I would like to read the books, actually. I think I'd better
give them a go.
Better go at it. But my understanding from the MGM film is that it was all a dream because the uncle was the scarecrow and the you know, and all the rest of it. I don't know who all the other characters were. So that kind of made it seem like it was in her fantasy mind.
I don't take that. I think it's a magical land where it's like a mirror of our world. So there are these characters
like the upside down.
I was going to say the upside down. Ooh.
Or a multiverse.
You could argue, I'm saying it's a dour first 20 minutes, you could argue that kind of satisfies the thing about the first film having a sepia tone for the first part of it. What's it black and white? Because it is brown.
Yeah. It is, yeah.
That film, it is brown. You know what I mean? So it kind of fulfills that sort of MGM style aspect of it.
So you're saying that rather than having a like that brown kind of depressing look to it, they went for
a brown depressing storyline. Yeah,
yeah. But in Wizard of Oz, she decides to run away from home. Her dog's being bullied by the next door neighbour. So it's not much happier, is it? Really, let's be honest. There's a lot of parallels to be drawn, including the fact that all the characters that are in the film in Oz are all people who were there in the beginning of the film.
The thing is that thing about her being left in the neighbouring town, I found upsetting, having a child about the same age. But then her running away from the hospital. Spoilers.
They're
Yeah.
all supposed to have watched
You
it.
should have watched it.
Do your homework.
Her running
on.
away from the hospital and getting swept up in a torrent in a river and basically nearly drowning. That's very, very upsetting to me. That's very near-death experience kind of thing. I know that the tornado is, but there's something a little bit fantasy about this spinning house, whereas that is
Yeah.
like real
It's nowhere
stuff.
near as fun, is it? She gets in a
No.
river and she floats down it and she wakes up in Oz. It's not the same as
With a
flying
talking
house.
chicken.
It's
No.
not a patch on a flying house.
No.
Do you know, you don't realise how old Judy Garland is until you compare her to, how do you pronounce?
Fairuza Balk.
Fairuza Balk.
Yeah.
She was 10, but she looks a lot younger, doesn't she?
She does, yeah. She looks
about
really
8.
young, yeah.
So she looks about, I thought she might have been 7 or something.
Oh, she was like 14 or 15 was Judy Garland, I think. when she
16.
did it. Was she
16?
16?
16, and Fairuza is 10.
Yeah.
Which seems way more appropriate. Like, I can, just.
Yeah.
Not for putting her through that harrowing experience.
Well, no,
No.
but like, but I also made it sad because she's like, she seemed quite similar to Bonnie. Like, I was just imagining it was Bonnie the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is my thing with the that being swept away in a river thing. It's like absolute hell, Anyway, so we've got to Oz.
Well,
Lunch pail. Do you not love those trees?
I
That was
love
my
the
thing as a
lunch
kid.
pail
The idea of
trees.
getting a lunch pail off a tree. But you can only take the ones that have fallen off.
the thing I've said before is what I absolutely love in films is taking well-known iconography and like messing with it or representing it, which is why I like Monsters University.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you've got the door with a worm and all these things that you didn't realise were icons until you watch them again. And this, seeing the yellow brick road
Tattered and
smashed
broken up.
to smithereens is gut-wrenching because it's this
Yeah.
thing you're so familiar with and you're like, what has happened here? It's quite harrowing.
Yeah.
It's really like takes your breath away. It does. It's
Yeah.
just something about that classic road being in bits. Did something to me.
I find the whole setting of Oz when they get there as well is just it's fascinating. It feels like
Pompeii.
well, yeah. Actually, what I was going to say was it feels like we were talking on the DLP show last week about Blobbyland. It feels like an abandoned theme park.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got.
I
Like,
went
everything's
Pompeii,
growing and
you
all
went
that.
Blobbyland.
That's the difference
Yeah.
between you two.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
I've written
but
in my
also
notes.
seeing Tin Woodsman, as she calls him, and Cowardly Lion, like
Yeah.
turn to stone, and not only that, they're both because when they come back to life later, they're both mid-battle. So there's something really noble and heroic about they died in battle. He's swinging his axe, and Cowardly Lion was taking a swipe.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
when they got turned to stone. And you're like, oh, guys, you were fighting to the end. They're so blooming noble.
Yeah.
It brings a tear to my eye.
Do you like?
We're getting to the cry factor already. What?
No, I was going to ask you a visual effects question, so I'll ask you it later. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
But then we got those guys. But then what better new crew than TikTok,
Yes.
Jack,
Belina.
the Grump,
Yeah. Is that what
Gump.
Gump. Yeah.
and Belina? Because even Bonnie said we're watching it, and she went, "Oh, isn't it funny how they had like 4 of them and a pet dog, and in this one they've got 4 of them and a pet chicken."
Yeah.
I was like, it is. It's the same thing, but like different.
Not daft, that kid, is she?
Do you think when they wrote this, Hugh, as a computer game fan, do you think when they built this story,
Yeah.
they were thinking about computer games and bosses and stuff? Because it's
No.
got this very. Do you know what I mean? It's got this whole sort of thing of that's you arrive in Oz and you have to get. And you have to get to the Emerald City. You get to the Emerald City, and there's a problem there, so you've got to get rid of the Wheelers. Then Mombi appears, and you've got to escape from Mombi by bringing to life a sofa. And then you've got to go fight the Gnome King. Like the whole thing just feels like this.
Well, if it
adventure
wasn't
game. It's
made,
like the game in big.
if it wasn't made like probably like through 83 and 84, I'd probably say yeah. But I think it's too early for those kind of games, isn't it?
Not a
Like a text adventure game.
text adventure game. Yeah,
Could be.
That's the kind of thing it
But
feels like to
but
me.
that does bring to mind the fact that as I was watching it, it did feel like, right, we've got to do this bit, then we've got to do this bit, then
Yeah.
we've got to do this bit.
Go and retrieve, and keys play a big part in it as well. The
Yeah.
key that she finds right at the start is the one that gets her into the room to wind up TikTok, who's got keys in his back.
Is it a motif
effectively.
or is it just lazy?
And then they have to retrieve the key from Mombi's from Mombi to go to cabinet and go to the right head.
How sinister is that? Is that head waking up?
Heavy duty.
This is
So when they all start screaming.
It doesn't just remind me of all Hugh's Terry Gilliam films that he loves. It reminds me of what's this film? Hugh's going to tell me what this film is.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's
The
Labyrinth.
whole thing's got
For-
that feeling,
for-
doesn't it?
Yeah.
For listeners, not viewers, I was just holding the palms of my hands in front of my eyes, and if you've seen Pan's Labyrinth,
It
you'll
is
know
very
what that
Pan's
is.
Labyrinth.
Well, it's-
I've always
yeah.
thought that.
It's children
Pan's
dealing
Labyrinth is very
with
much this.
real life trauma in their imaginations. It's exactly the same thing, fundamentally.
Yeah, and
It's also like Coraline. It's all that
Yeah.
that kind of thing, isn't it?
it's harrowing, and she's going to keep her in a tower until she's pretty enough to take her head off.
The pretty Mombi is in Young Sherlock Holmes.
All right.
She's Sherlock Holmes' bit of rough.
Mm.
I love that film as well, by the way.
Do you-
wish
oh,
that
I
was
like
Disney.
that one.
would do
I like
film.
that one.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Do you
film.
know what got me?
What?
When Jack's head fell off. I recently have been getting very invested in traumatic events in stories. Like we went to see a play today, and I gasped when a sausage fell in a puddle. But too much. Like I was actually there on stage with them, and I was very, very upset when that pumpkin's head fell off. I was like, oh my god, how are they gonna get it? He's not gonna do it. He's gonna be falling.
Do you know who plays Jack?
No.
Yes.
I knew you would.
Yes.
Brian Henson. There's two people that portray him.
The
Brian
son
Henson
of Jim.
Brian Henson does the voice and half of the. I suppose he does because it's like a puppet, but also there seems to be a skinny guy. Sometimes is just dressed as him, so, which I forget the other guy's name. Unfortunately, sorry. Do you know what? I should look it up. It's only fair, you know. Anyway, carry on.
But the voice is Brian Henson, is it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good trivia. Good trivia.
So I guess I'm going to jump on a bit, but they escape, don't they? And then they head off to the Gnome King, to the Gnome King's mountain, where they have to, because they're trying to rescue the Scarecrow. And to rescue the Scarecrow, they get basically told, you can go into a room full of objects and you have to touch them and say the word Oz. And if it's him, you get him. And if you guess him wrong 3 times, then you become one of the objects.
Stuart Harvey Wilson.
Okay.
Is that
Interesting.
Right? Is that right?
Oh.
And again, I know I keep doing that really boring thing where I go, it's like this and it's like that. But that is like Raiders of the Lost Ark, isn't it? No? Is that the one?
The other one.
The other one.
No, the first. Yeah, no, the first one.
Where do they have to drink the Holy Grail?
The first. Yeah, that one. The
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. You're right.
It
You're
is
right.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
First one.
It's very like that. But I also was when it turned out to be the giant emerald, I was like,
Yeah, of course.
why were you tapping silver cups?
Yeah, it's a bit annoying that she accidentally bumps into it on her last guess and she goes, oh, maybe this one.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though, right? Because TikTok says, no, I have not run down. I am just
Not a
studying it."
rundown.
It's-
I'm a very rundown.
It's a really weird,
Is
like,
this a
not
Russian?
no, it's a not Mexican accent, isn't it?
Dorothy.
Yeah,
Like that.
yeah. I have not run down.
I didn't get that.
I need to.
That's almost as good as my Nicolas Cage impression.
I'm going to guess wrong, and then you have to guess. And he
love-
guesses wrong, and then she can't see him. She doesn't
know.
notice it all.
Do you know
She's
what?
like,
No, she
That-
didn't
but
learn the lesson.
That was a
did
great
she?
plan, though.
Oh no,
That
a great
was-
plan.
Yeah, and
but-
actually, it doesn't come to anything, does
No,
it?
No,
she doesn't even sort of acknowledge what he's become. She goes over and looks at a table, and I couldn't work out which, because there was like 8 objects on the table, and I couldn't work out which one was
New.
TikTok.
No.
And then she just wandered in a different direction and didn't make any conclusions.
But
TikTok would have been very disappointed in her.
as someone who's watched it before, as she walked into that room, she walked past so many green things that I don't think the makers of the film had thought it through that room properly. Because the whole idea was he was green, and the other ones that had been transformed were green as well. But loads of the stuff in there was green. So were they other people that would have been revealed if it had happened, if she touched them, or not? We'll never know, will we? We'll just never know.
Plot holes.
I think the Gnome King has a fair point. His motivation is excellent. He's like, well, hang on a minute. All my things have been stolen. All I did was take them back.
It's like the Elgin marbles, babes.
Don't you love it when they're drinking molten lava? Or
Yeah.
molten silver, isn't it?
Yeah, it's molten silver and was it lime cakes?
Yeah.
Some kind of lime.
That was always one of my favourite things. I always thought, oh, I can quite find it. It's really cosy, that, doesn't it?
And I love his voice as well.
Yeah.
That's more sound production, I suppose. Yeah, that's Nicole Williamson. plays that part, and the doctor at the start. Because I was saying to Bonnie, I said, "Does he sound familiar?" I was trying to, kind of prompt her.
Oh, I didn't make that connection.
Oh,
I
right.
Did you
didn't
not?
know.
And the two guys were the wheelers as well. The two guys that wheeled her in, because every time you hear the wheelers, you hear the sound of the cart. that
I
she
didn't
pushed.
make that connection.
it's
And there's a
either.
pumpkin in there. There's so much.
It's all
iconic-
callback.
There's so much callback
Yeah.
there. Every last little thing.
Bonnie got that before I did, really, because when at the end,
Well,
he
I never noticed before
when-
this time I watched
I
it.
didn't, but when at the end he goes, "Mom," and he realizes Ozma, and then Bonnie was like, "Oh my God, that's the girl from the hospital who gave her the pumpkin."
Oh yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
I got the girl from the hospital bit. That was obvious.
Obvs.
But I didn't get the Wheelers thing.
Yeah, there you are.
yeah.
Any more on story before we?
That's all I've got for story, really.
Should we score?
What do you think to the resolution with her being found downstream? I mean, do you know
A
what?
little bit lazy.
Her parents were suitably upset. Her aunt and uncle were suitably upset that, it really annoys me when kids go missing for days in movies and then the parents turn up and go, "There you are."
Yeah. Oh, thank God you're alive.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Not hysterical and sobbing.
But by that time, they just wanted to get the film over, didn't they? So,
Fair enough.
which is no different really to Labyrinth, where they get back and they're just like, yeah. That's it.
Also,
The end.
they
We're
did
done.
basically just repeat the end of the first film with the whole, "Oh, we want you to be queen. Oh no, I can't. I need to go home. You're the best friends I ever made."
I thought there'd be some criticism about, hang on a minute, this egg turned out to be poison.
Oh,
Oh, I forgot.
sorry,
about,
I
forgot about
needed
the
to
eggs,
discuss
didn't
that. I don't understand the egg. Did I miss? Excuse me, an Easter
Is
egg
that
earlier in the film
chicken?
that
No,
explained that
it's
because I
a-
did not get
it's
that.
A term, it's a 2-bit film buff term that I don't like to use. Deus ex machina.
Yeah.
But
God
anyone
the
who
machine.
says that, may I remind you, Dorothy throws water on the witch out of nowhere, based on nothing,
Yeah.
and it melts her.
Yeah.
So there is precedence, and I think in that vein, I love the fact that
They
and also,
build it up the whole way
also,
through.
Belinda, is it Belinda or Belina?
Belina.
Belina hasn't laid an egg, so there's that build up.
And every time they
going,
said that she has a chicken with her.
a chicken. She has a chicken. Yeah. So they kind of hints that there's a problem, but you don't know
But
what
it
it is.
falling in his mouth.
I know it's
Mouth?
silly, but it is a kids' film. But
Was it his mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I love it. I love that thing where he's just going, "Don't you know?" And he's already melting. The eggs are poison to gnomes, and everyone's going, "Poison, poison." It's brilliant.
It is
I love
really
it.
good.
I love it.
I agree.
I just the
completely
whole
agree.
film's exciting, which is why I give it a 9.
Oh,
Lucy.
Oh, we scary. Scary story. Okay, I will. For me, well, no, it is. It's a good adventure romp. There were a few things that were very reminiscent of other things, but there was also some extremely sinister things. I will give it for story a 8.
I've written here, the stakes are high and the distress is constant in this one. The characters are grotesque. The whole thing feels very punk. But then we have this ragtag group who inadvertently save the day. I've given it a 9. It's a bit of class.
Well, but speaking of those wheelers and the punks, that's the one thing that's like really dated badly. Is everything about those wheelers? Like
I was saving that for special effects.
Yeah, that's
actually.
the one thing
Yeah.
that's
the way
dated.
they, the way they talk, and they're like, "You got an egg in there," and I thought, is that a young Bobcat Goldthwait? Is that his name?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not him, because at one point he goes, "Have you got a chicken in there?"
Yeah, someone trying to do.
And his purple
Bobcat
sprayed hair,
Goldthwait.
which has gone onto his scalp, and like the makeup, it's two things that I'm not really interested in. Sorry to offend anyone, which is circus performing
Yeah.
and punks. It's very steampunk, and I don't like that aesthetic. But the Wheelers terrified me as a kid,
Yeah,
which is daft
agreed.
because they're not that scary.
Visual effects?
Oh yeah, let's get on to it. We need to talk more about the Wheelers.
We love visual effects, and within the film is lifted animation, CGI, and the sets and models too.
It's quite long, is that?
Is that new?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
new.
is
He
that
sent us
new?
it. He sent us it.
That's
Yeah.
outstanding, Christopher. Well, let's go on to Wheelers then. The thing is, I like practical visual effects over any other kind of animation. But the problem with them is you can just see exactly what they are. I think that's what you're trying to say, Hugh. There's no kind of cinema magic to those guys. It's a 2-bit circus trope, basically, and the way they've kind of done them up is incredibly 80s. And you're right with like the hairspray and the faces on the top of the masks. There's nothing. I don't know what I'm trying to. There's nothing magical about it to me. Even though I do agree they're quite magical creatures in the context of the film, it's ruined by knowing what that the dudes basically.
This is the Wheelers.
Yeah.
But not overall.
That's the Wheelers.
Yeah.
Because basically Hugh had already kind of tipped us into visual effects, so I was just picking up his mantle.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? The first thing I noticed watching this film was, God, look, for Kansas, it doesn't look very deserty, and there's an awful lot of dull clouds in the sky.
It's cold,
and
isn't
then
it?
They get in the car to drive off, and they go into a field, and I thought, that looks like England. That there's no way that's Kansas. So I went and looked it up, and it's Wiltshire.
Oh, I
So
did
the whole thing's filmed in the UK, and I just found that quite interesting that I spotted that straight away.
Yeah.
I was quite pleased to have spotted that. That's my real thing. But my big takeaway is the stop motion animation.
Oh,
the rock people.
It's first class.
It's Will Vinton, isn't it? Of California Raisin fame.
Is it?
It is.
Right.
It is.
It's first class. It's top rate stuff. Like the flat, the sort of scout that keeps coming back to talk to, to the king. I can't work out how that's done because it's all flat. But then when they change the eyes and the mouth still, the mouth doesn't budge like a millimeter. So it's all very carefully done. But I don't know what materials they're using. It's so cool.
At what point, right, when you're watching the Gnome King, the big scene with the Gnome King, did you realise he wasn't stop motion anymore and it was a guy in a suit, really, with his red lips and stuff?
Oh,
When you start seeing the tear line,
I think when they did that, they should have done it in black and white or turn the saturation down. Because everything's grey anyway. But then you can see the pink of his eyes, which is a shame.
It's just it was weird. I'd never noticed it before, and suddenly
I always noticed that.
I'd never thought about it before.
It's disappointing because I love the animation of the Gnome King, Nome, by the way.
Gnome,
no G. You get one of these. Yeah, it's
saying
like
gnome instead of gnome.
Yes, it's saying gnome. If what was I saying? Yeah, because I love the animation of him so much. When he turns into a human, I'm like, oh, I don't like it. I'm like, I don't want this. I want him to be animated again because it's so cool. And the way those hands open doorways, those clawing hands, is really cool.
Yeah.
Man, it's good stuff.
I've realised in my notes here I didn't put Blobbyland. What I wrote here was, when she arrives in Oz, it has a feeling of a folly in disrepair.
Oh,
it reminded
that's
me
better
of
than Blobbyland.
Forbidden Corner.
Yeah.
If you'd left it for a couple of years and stuff had started to grow around it.
Do you know, we don't see much, do we? You see the desert. Well,
The
there's the Gnome
desert.
Kingdom and Oz, and then the desert in the middle, and that's the whole of Oz that you see.
I tell you what was a good effect. The wheelers falling onto the sand and then becoming sand. You couldn't see the join. Well, you probably could if you watched it a few times. I personally couldn't see the join.
No.
It's got a lovely feel to it, this film.
Yes.
It's all pretty much practical, isn't it? So it's just that nice 80s feeling. Yeah.
The puppetry of Jack is really good as well, isn't it?
The way his head
even just the guy in a
bounces.
suit, where even when it's just the guy, like the tall guy, it's just very, very good.
But isn't TikTok the best?
I love TikTok, man.
I love TikTok.
And also TikTok is like one of the first ever robots in literature, not referred to as a robot, but because he's like a clockwork man, he's one of the first ever robots in literature. Because they weren't really a thing, but then this mechanical man, it fits the description of a robot.
The Scarecrow was a mime artist, wasn't he? And I can't remember his name, but he's got one of those funny names like Haircomb or something like that. Like I can't remember his name.
Deep Roy. Is it Deep Roy?
No, Deep Roy is in it.
Is the Tin Man?
Yeah, he's the Tin Man. Yeah. But I can't remember who the guy is. But he's a mime artist. I think he only has 2 lines in the whole thing anyway, because none of those characters from who you think of as being synonymous with Oz really say anything, do they? Because
no.
As creative
His face
as
doesn't move.
No.
Scarecrow.
He's a bit
creative
freaky,
as
isn't he?
all the practical effects where there was some dodgy sort of green screen, poor focus pulling on the flying sofa bit and falling Jack and things. That was I mean, I'm not saying they could have done better. They didn't have computers like we do now. But when you're used to watching what we're used to watching, it was a little bit janky.
Speaking of janky, a lot of Bonnie's understanding of films now is from watching Corridor Crew, and they say janky a lot. And she said today, having watched a lot of Corridor Crew, she said it must have been so much harder to make a film in those days because she knew that they had to make everything for real.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, CGI was in its early days then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Early formations, and we're only just starting to see it. And
Was there any in this film?
not that I know
don't
of.
think so.
I don't think I saw any.
Is there some like squash and stretch things on Jack's head, or is it all like physical stretching? Because his head does bounce up and down sometimes.
No, I think it's all just natural movement of the material, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Rank it.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah, you.
Outstanding problem-solving practical effects for the time. The Wheelers ruin it a bit for me, and there are some questionable compositing elements. I'm going to give it a 7.
I agree with you on what you're saying, but I think the stop motion is of such a standard that it's worthy of an 8.
Okay.
I think it's of such a standard that I'm going to give it, and the whole film in general, a 9, just for look and feel.
The tones are really good as well, actually. Like the colours that you get when you first arrive in Oz, it's not all bright and colourful like it is when they get there in Wizard of Oz. It's not this bright, wonderful place. It's damaged.
Yeah.
And I really like the dirginess of it. I know you don't like those kind of things generally, Lucy, but I do. I like the dirginess of it. Cool. Music?
Yes.
Me so do so me do me so do so me do. We are going to talk about the music. It's rate the songs and score the incidental bits.
Is it just me, or is some of the themes in this iconic?
I can't remember any.
Is that playing on the Storybook Boatland ride?
Yeah.
Oh, it might be,
Yeah.
TikTok has his own theme when he turns up.
He does.
I think when I first started listening to the score, because it's very scored throughout as well, isn't it? There's music constantly, apart from like the low bits where it shouldn't have it. There's little incidental bits. When I first started listening, I thought, is this the Ghostbusters guy? Because but the more I listened to it, I thought it's not quirky enough for that. But
No, it's quite grand.
yeah, but particularly in the first 20 minutes, it's got a real. But it has a real old-time film feel to it. It's one of the things I forgot to say in the story. I think if you didn't know what you were watching and you just turned this on a Sunday afternoon, you'd turn it off after 5 minutes because there's nothing going on to grab you at all in that opening 20 minutes of the film. But yeah, I think the music in it personally is great. Where I have issue is it seems like they've recorded all of the audio in a cave, like completely in a cave. Not just the Gnome Kings bits, but everything, everywhere is so echoey. Every single person's voice at every single moment has got echo and reverb in it, and it's a bit much.
That's
it's
true,
distracting.
actually. But I love it in the bits where they're touching the ornaments and,
it's fine for
saying
that.
Oz, and it's echoey. There's something really powerful about that.
Well, it's a massive, big open room, and they're in a cave as well. So at that point in time, it's fine. And I guess actually, if you think about it, when they're with TikTok in the room there, it's like quite an enclosed space, but it's big. It would be echoey. And when they're in the Emerald City and they're outside in that bit, it would be there as well. It's just everywhere is vast and big and echoey, and so it's quite distracting, I think, throughout the film. That's my view of it, anyway.
Yeah, well, I remember that the main theme is like it's so 80s and nostalgic, isn't it? But there's nothing massively like memorable about the score. I mean, there are those bits you mentioned, but it's not like people talk about it now or anything, is it?
I do.
Well, unless we're making a podcast. But it's the sound design for me. It's all the callback noises, like the trolley in the hospital, which is the sound of the Wheelers, and what else is there? Is there anything else? Is that it?
I can't think.
But the sound design in general is just really nice. All the rock noises. I mean, the Wheeler noise is terrifying when you're 4, like I was.
And it would be being strapped into a chair, into a trolley and wheeled down a corridor is pretty harrowing, isn't it?
The only thing I remember is Dorothy Girl, and that sent
There's a bit where
chills
she's
down my
looking,
spine.
bit where she's looking out the window talking to the Wheelers, and her voice goes really deep.
Yeah,
And she's like,
Like-
Dorothy.
yeah. I'm like
I've put here,
McCauley.
there's a bit where Mombi comes out and shouts at the Wheelers to go to the Gnome King's Mountain, and she's overdubbed with what sounds like a man's voice.
Yeah, it's very odd. I just think she's just growling a bit.
Yeah, I think she is. She's giving it all, and she's giving a performance. Yeah. I have not much more to say about music than that.
No.
For me, that tune is one of the things that's always stuck in my head. It's something that I just love. That is Oz to me. So when I went to DLP for the first time and that was playing, and I was like, and when I spoke to an American person who was on the boat with me the second time we went, who said, I didn't think that Wizard of Oz was Disney, and I said, well, it's not, but Return to Oz is.
Yeah, they never get it. I hear that almost every time we go on that ride. Someone going, like, why is Wizard of Oz here?
Yeah, there you are. Score it.
Yeah.
Go on then.
You first this
Oh,
time.
well, for me it's a 9 because I just love that piece of music. It's literally a very personal thing.
I'm going to give it a hearty 7.
Ooh.
Mostly for the sound production, but some good scoring. Nothing particularly memorable though.
I will also give it a 7.
Ooh. Do you want the other scores now then? What do we do next?
What about the people in the chat?
Yeah.
Do they want to contribute scores or
Well, I'd rather not
three-word-
scores because I've given lots of time to give me scores so that I've already got a score rating calculated and done. If people start putting it in, I have to start sitting around and doing
But
calculations again.
3-word reviews, you want,
Three-word
right?
reviews, yes. Give us some
3-word
three-word
reviews.
and we'll go through those in a second.
Yeah.
In the meantime, let's pass the scores.
Yes.
Pass the scores, please.
Well, it came out as 8.2, so I figure we'd give that an 8 because we're rounding down there because it's less than 5.
I've got the score then.
You've got a score.
A big score actually.
Ooh,
It's 81.
81. That's
Respectable.
That's more than respectable.
81. Let's see here. Rise of Skywalker. As if we give Rise of Skywalker 83.
I know if we did that film again now, I don't think. it'd
Yeah,
get
we need to go
anywhere
back
near
to that entire trilogy. Would just be like
I still love
in
it.
the low 60s.
I still love it.
Any 81s here? Let's have a look on my old list. Do you know? I like that I never put this in order, and it's just a struggle every time. 81, Big Hero 6.
Ah, there we are.
Is it as good as is Big Hero 6?
It was-
Lucas says 81.
It was a surprise hit for me. Was Big Hero 6? Yes, I like Big Hero 6 a lot. I would like to watch Luca again.
Pinocchio 81.
There we go.
You see, I've never been a Pinocchio fan.
Yeah,
Same
you're wrong.
reasons. It's a bit dark and sinister. Do you want to do 3-word reviews?
Yeah, 3-word reviews we've had in the chat then. Creepy, nostalgic, brilliant. I like that. We've had Cheers, might watch from VoiceOver Guy. And John Parker says bleak, dark, but fun. That is 4 words, but I'll allow that.
Hyphenated the butt fun.
But
Yeah,
fun.
but
Don't hyphenate butt fun. Crikey.
it's not a double T. It's okay. Cry Factor?
So hang on.
Ooh.
Favourite bits?
Oh, favourite bits.
I was going to say there's a total of 6 words there for 2 3-word reviews, and 3 of them are bleak, dark, and creepy.
Yeah, but in a good way,
That's
yeah.
about right.
Favourite bits then, go on.
Well, when me and Bonnie really liked when TikTok doffs his helmet and he reveals his little shiny bald head. He's so cute.
He's very cute.
And also this quote. Jack says it. He says, I was reaching for the cup to do the TikTok voice, but I want it's if his brain's run down, how can he talk? Happens to people all the time, Jack. It's one of those where you go, yes, very.
Oh, she's so right.
Yes.
How astute.
Very appropriate, very apposite. Yeah, it's a good quote, man.
It is a good quote. Go on, Lucy.
I like it when Dorothy gets it, when TikTok's like crying oil at the end, and she gets out a hanky to wipe it away. There's just something so mature and adult and motherly about the way she does it. It's really like just no fuss, but very loving, and it made me, I liked it.
There's 2 things for me. The first one is I just love the idea of a woman who can swap her heads. There's something about that whole.
The Wurzel Gummidge of women.
Is that your kink?
There's just something about that whole Mombi thing as an idea, as a concept that I just love. And so the whole bit of her trying to get the key and then going and getting when she gets the key and she opens the cabinet and gets the whatever it's
Life
called,
powder or something, whatever it's called.
bring you
Yeah.
to life powder
Yeah.
stuff. And they all of a sudden all their eyes open. I just love that bit. I really, really love it. The other bit for me is the whole piece with the Gnome King, the whole conversational piece of them sat there, because he's for a protagonist, he's a very reasonable man, and so he's actually quite likable. Right up to the point where he tries to eat the Jack and ends up with an egg in his mouth.
Egg on his face.
He's a very, very
I have
likable
it
person.
on my face.
So yeah, those are my favourite bits, I think.
And what you're saying about the heads, though, as well, is I like the fact that Jack says she locked me in here, but she was wearing head 17 or whatever at the time, so she probably doesn't remember that I'm up here. But when she puts her head back on, is in trouble.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting idea.
Cry Factor?
Yes.
It's absolutely beautiful. He really loves it. I don't know why they just can't be together. Hugh's Cry Factor.
Do you know what? The cry factor is bubbling away throughout this whole thing for me, just because I love the film so much. But also, I must have been tired. But it makes me really sad when Auntie M says, "What did I tell you?" And Dorothy says sadly, "Not to talk about Oz because it's just in my imagination." And you're like, "Oh, but it isn't, Dorothy." It's so sad. And then
It is.
And then when she sends Toto home as they go off to the hospital, you know, it's all in the first few moments, and you're like, "Oh my god!" And poor Toto's like howling. You know, I'm already at a 3 at that point. But then it's TikTok. It's just his unwavering loyalty. I just like, you know, like when she's in trouble and he's just immediately like, "I'm coming, Dorothy." You know, "Oh yes, he is." You know, he's your pal. He'll help you out. And when what's this? When he cries. Oh yeah, and when he cries, like Lucy said, that bit's sad. And Jack calling Dorothy his mom. It's really sweet. He's like, "I know you're not my mom, but do you mind if I call you my mom?" You're like, "Oh man, it's so sweet."
Just kind of come out of nowhere.
But when they flew out of the Emerald City, it just got me. I was like, "Oh yes, they can fly, they can do it." And then they fly over the wall, and you're like, "Yes, guys, you did it." So I'm gonna give it a 4. I think most people wouldn't get up to a 4, which is pretty severe crying.
But you're hormonal, aren't you, at the moment?
It's not ugly crying from Up or Toy Story 2. It's just less than that. But I think most people would say it's 3. But for me, I'm giving this a 4. And that sounds like this: 4 teardrops.
it's a huge amount of trauma to get through, so it is. The highs are really high because the lows are so low.
I mean, I think you can explain how messed up late Gen X, early millennials are by just watching 80s kids films, because they were really,
Snowman.
they emotionally scarred you. They didn't coddle anything. There was no uplifting messages at all. It was just trauma.
It's funny that you say that, because I've watched Peter Pan and Wendy today with Lucas, and do you know what? Personally, I think it's a pretty decent film, but
Okay.
Because these days in films, everybody's got to have a reason for doing what they're doing. There's a bit of a backstory between Hook and Pan, and it means that Hook's not altogether bad, which kind of changes who he is as a character. And yeah, back in the 70s, 80s, you wouldn't even think that people were bad because they were bad. There wasn't ever any reason behind it. I kind of like that new trend, personally. I do quite like it, but it does definitely change how you look at things.
Yeah.
Philippa says that just gave me a heart attack.
I think it was the crying jingle.
No one congratulated me on my 4 perfect teardrops, because I
we're
sometimes
used to it.
struggle.
I know. We expect perfection from you, Huey.
I do those live, people, if you're listening. Live with a pencil on my cheek.
So what's next, chaps? Because we need to pick another film now, and all you Patreon pals, you'll get an opportunity to do that. I'm changing my film. I'm making a change up.
I'm sticking to mine. That's allowed, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sticking to Blackbeard's Ghost.
I'm going for Muppet Treasure Island.
Ooh. I want to look at Swiss Family Robinson,
Ooh, which one?
the first one. What do you mean? Which one? What's the other one?
I've made it like 3
Oh
times.
no! Which the one we watched?
I've only
50s.
seen one. I think it's a 50s one.
Right, okay.
That one.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
With the Swiss
I
polka
bet we'll
and
end up doing
everything.
Muppet Treasure Island.
Muppet Treasure Island, Blackbeard's
Hang on.
Ghost.
Blackbeard's Ghost. There's
It's-
2 pirate options
The
there.
Muppet Christmas Carol.
There's 3.
Is it called Muppets Treasure Island?
Muppet's Treasure Island, yeah.
Okay, because the naming convention is wild on this franchise. I think it's Muppets Treasure Island.
Muppet's Treasure Island, yeah.
I think.
Blackbeard's Ghost. I don't even know what that is. Blackbeard's Ghost.
Do you know what? I probably saw it once when I was about 8, and I've got this really fond memory of it being a brilliant film, and I genuinely don't know if it is or not. And I haven't watched it since, so I might watch it now and be like, "Oh my god, this is awful."
But then they're the best kind of
that's
films.
that's the joy. I just have a memory of really enjoying this film when I was young. It's got Dean, who did Herbie?
Him.
Him.
The musical. The guy who's in lots of musicals.
I don't think he's in musicals really. Is he?
Not? Well, he was.
No,
he was in
he-
Company. He was.
Oh
in the
yes,
original
he was.
Prohibition
He
Company.
was. You're right.
Dean Jones.
Dean
Jones, yeah.
Jones. Dean Jones, bad guy out of Beethoven. So it's got him in the lead role, and I just remember it being a really cozy thing.
Oh, I like him.
I'm pitching it. Everyone vote for Blackbeard's Ghost. Come on.
On Muppet Treasure Island.
Philippa liked my
Muppet's Treasure
teardrops. She said they were fantastic.
Island. There we go. I'm glad you
thanks.
teardrops are fantastic.
Thanks, Philippa.
Good. Well, I think that's it, isn't it, for today?
It certainly is.
End of show. We'll do another one next month. Then we'll stick all the stuff in Patreon as usual. This show will be available. You'll already know this if you're listening to it, but it'll be available tomorrow at some point. So if you're listening to this, I've already done it. If you're not listening to it, then I don't know who I'm talking to really. So on that note, we'll see you next time. Bye.
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 It hasn't started playing out.
Goodbye.